Picture this, June 197 BC. 26,000 Roman legionaries stand face to face with the most feared military formation the ancient world has ever known, the Macedonian Phalanx. For over a century, this bristling wall of 16-foot pikes has crushed every army foolish enough to challenge it. Alexander the Great used it to conquer half the known world. But today, on a fog-shrouded hillside in central Greece, Rome's adaptable legion will do the impossible. What happens next will determine whether the Mediterranean belongs to Greek military tradition or Roman innovation. The age of the Phalanx is about to end, violently. To understand why these two civilizations are about to collide, we need to rewind 3 years. By 200 BC, Rome has just survived the nightmare of Hannibal's invasion, 16 years of brutal warfare that nearly destroyed the Republic. But Rome didn't just survive, it emerged hungry for security through expansion. Across the Adriatic Sea, King Philip V of Macedon has been meddling in Greek affairs, expanding his influence while Rome was distracted. The Greek city-states, particularly the Aetolian League, appealed to Rome for protection against Macedonian aggression. It's the perfect pretext. The Roman Senate declares war in 200 BC, launching what historians call the Second Macedonian War. Leading Rome's expeditionary force is Titus Quinctius Flamininus, a 30-year-old aristocrat with something to prove. Young, ambitious, and classically educated in Greek culture, Flamininus is nevertheless ruthlessly practical. He understands that defeating Macedon means more than winning battles. It means dismantling the psychological dominance of the Phalanx itself. Philip V is no incompetent. The 41-year-old Macedonian king inherited the throne at 9 years old and has spent 3 decades consolidating power. He commands approximately 2,500 men, including his elite phalanx, the direct descendants of Alexander's legendary infantry. These pike-wielding warriors have trained since childhood to maintain formation, their sarissas, 16-foot pikes, creating an impenetrable hedge of bronze and ash wood. But here's what makes this moment pivotal. This isn't just a territorial dispute. This is a clash of military philosophies. The Phalanx represents rigid, overwhelming force, disciplined, terrifying, and unbeaten for generations. The Roman legion represents flexibility, individual initiative, and tactical adaptation. Only one system can dominate the century to come. By spring 197 BC, Flamininus has maneuvered Philip into a corner. After years of raiding and skirmishing, both commanders know a decisive battle is inevitable. The armies spend weeks shadowing each other through the mountains of Thessaly, seeking advantageous ground. Then, on a June morning near the town of Pherai, fate intervenes. A thick fog blankets the hills called Cynoscephalae, dogs' heads in Greek, named for the peculiar twin ridges dominating the landscape. Neither commander wants to fight here. The broken terrain is terrible ground for both the Phalanx and traditional legion tactics. But when advanced scouts from both armies collide on the ridges, the engagement spirals beyond anyone's control. Within hours, this accidental skirmish will escalate into one of history's most consequential battles, a clash that will redefine Mediterranean power and prove that invincibility is always temporary. Let's examine what each commander brings to this fight. Flamininus commands approximately 26,000 men, divided into flexible units called maniples. His force includes 2,000 cavalry and a crucial contingent, 6,000 Aetolian Greek allies, light infantry and cavalry who know this terrain intimately. The Roman legion isn't a monolithic formation. It's a modular system where each maniple of 120 men can operate semi-independently, adjusting to terrain and tactical situations. Philip's 2,500 soldiers are built around his centerpiece weapon, the Phalanx, comprising 16,000 heavy infantry. Each phalangite carries the enormous sarissa, wears bronze armor, and has trained relentlessly to maintain shoulder-to-shoulder cohesion. Supporting them are 2,000 peltasts, light infantry, 5,500 Macedonian and Thracian auxiliaries, and 2,000 cavalry. On flat, open ground, this formation is virtually unstoppable. Roman historian Livy himself admitted the Phalanx presents a terrifying spectacle. Here's the Phalanx's genius. The front 5 ranks angle their sarissas forward, creating a wall of pike points so dense that approaching soldiers face certain impalement. The ranks behind press forward, adding mass and momentum. It's less a formation than a human steamroller coated in bronze-tipped spikes. No army has found an answer to this in over 150 years. But the Phalanx has fatal weaknesses, and Flamininus knows them. It requires flat, unobstructed terrain. Gaps in the line are catastrophic. Once an enemy breaks into the formation, the long pikes become useless. Phalangites can't turn quickly or fight as individuals. The formation is magnificent, monolithic, and brittle. The terrain at Cynoscephalae couldn't be worse for Philip. The ridge is uneven, studded with rocks and broken by ravines. Visibility in the fog is barely 50 yards. These are precisely the conditions where the phalanx becomes vulnerable. But Philip faces a cruel dilemma. Pull back and abandon his screening force to annihilation, or commit to battle on terrible ground and hope his superior infantry can overwhelm the Romans through sheer shock value. Around mid-morning on June 197 BC, the fog begins to lift. Philip makes his decision. He orders his entire army uphill to support his advanced troops. Flamininus, receiving reports of enemy movement, does the same. Neither general has time for proper reconnaissance, neither chooses this battlefield. But both are too committed to withdraw without catastrophic losses to their rear guard. As the fog dissipates in patches, soldiers on both sides glimpse their enemies appearing and vanishing like phantoms along the ridgeline. The tension is unbearable. Trumpets sound. Officers bellow orders. Thousands of men begin climbing the steep slopes, their formations distorting with every step over broken ground. What neither commander realizes is that they're about to fight two separate battles simultaneously, one on each side of the ridge. And in this chaos, the tactical flexibility of the Roman system will finally find its opportunity to prove itself against 2 centuries of Macedonian military dominance. The battle begins on Philip's right wing, the northern slope of the ridge. Here, the Macedonian king personally commands his best troops. He arrives at the crest first, a crucial advantage. His phalangites dress their ranks with practiced precision, sarissas raised to vertical, waiting for the order. Below them, Roman infantry struggle uphill, breathing hard, formations disrupted by the climb. Philip sees his moment, he orders the advance. 16,000 sarissas drop to horizontal with a sound like thunder. The phalanx surges forward downhill, gravity adding momentum to their terrifying mass. The Roman maniples ascending the slope suddenly face a descending forest of pike points, each warrior behind 5 spear tips extending from the formation's face. It's carnage. The Roman front ranks disintegrate. Men try to deflect the pikes with their large oval shields, but the sheer length advantage is overwhelming. A Roman infantryman with his 4-foot gladius sword can't even reach his enemy. The sarissa impales him while the phalangite remains 15 feet away. Those who survive the initial impact scramble backward, colliding with their own rear ranks. Panic ripples through the Roman lines. Flamininus watches his right wing buckle. This is the phalanx's reputation made flesh, overwhelming, relentless, seemingly invincible. Within minutes, the Roman right collapses into full retreat. Philip's phalanx pursues, maintaining formation, grinding forward like a machine made of men and bronze, but Flamininus doesn't break. He's studied warfare his entire life, and he recognizes something crucial. Philip has committed to his right wing. The Macedonian left, across the ridge on the southern slope, must be weaker. Here the situation is reversed. Flamininus has positioned his elite legionaries and his best allied troops on his left wing, and they reach the ridge crest before the Macedonians. The Roman commander makes an aggressive decision. Attack immediately, before Philip's left wing can organize. The Roman trumpets blare, 20 maniples surge forward. The Macedonians on this slope are still forming up. Their phalanx is incomplete, units separated by the difficult terrain, sarissas not yet properly dressed into formation. This is the nightmare scenario for phalangites, facing aggressive enemy infantry while disordered. The Roman legionaries exploit every gap. Their shorter weapons, gladius and pilum, javelin, are designed for exactly this kind of chaotic, close-quarters combat. A phalangite with his unwieldy 16-foot pike cannot defend himself once an enemy closes within that range. The sarissa becomes a liability, impossible to maneuver in individual combat. The Romans fight as trained, throw the pilum to disrupt and wound, then close with the gladius, shield bash to create openings, stab low beneath the enemy's guard. It's brutal, efficient, and perfectly suited to broken terrain. The Macedonian left wing begins to crumble. For a surreal moment, both armies are simultaneously winning and losing. On the northern slope, Philip's phalanx is victorious, chasing fleeing Romans down the hillside. On the southern slope, Flamininus's legionaries are routing Philip's left wing, cutting down disorganized Macedonians with methodical precision. This is the moment. Everything depends on who can exploit their advantage first. Flamininus recognizes the crisis. He needs to stop Philip's phalanx, now pursuing his broken right wing, before it wheels around and traps his entire army between Macedonian forces. But how do you stop a formation that's never been defeated head-on? Then, an unnamed Roman tribune, historians don't record his name, but his actions change everything, makes a decision that will echo through military history. This unnamed officer commands 20 maniples on the Roman left, the victorious wing. Standard procedure would be to pursue the fleeing Macedonians, racking up casualties and glory. Instead, he does something unprecedented. He wheels his entire force across the ridge and attacks Philip's victorious phalanx from behind. It's a calculated gamble. The phalanx is designed to face forward. Every piece of training, every tactical doctrine assumes the enemy is ahead. The formation has no rear guard, no capacity to turn quickly. The phalangites' armor protects their front, not their backs. The Roman maniples crash into the phalanx's rear ranks like wolves among sheep. Chaos erupts instantaneously. The rear ranks of Philip's phalanx try to turn, but turning requires space. The sarissas tangle with each other. Men stumble over their own pikes. The forward ranks, unaware they're being attacked from behind, continue pressing against the retreating Romans in front. The formation, that perfect, rigid, invincible instrument, begins tearing itself apart. Macedonian officers scream orders, but orders require cohesion to execute. The phalanx has no doctrine for this situation because it's never happened before. Individual phalangites, trained since childhood to fight as a unit, suddenly find themselves isolated, holding useless 15-foot pikes in close combat against Romans with short swords and shields. It becomes a massacre. The psychological impact is as devastating as the physical. For the first time in their lives, these elite warriors, the inheritors of Alexander's legacy, are helpless. The invincible formation is a death trap. Men throw down their sarissas and draw short swords, but they've never trained for individual combat. The Romans have trained for nothing else. Within 20 minutes, the entire Macedonian phalanx ceases to exist as a fighting force. Some units surrender, most flee. Thousands die where they stand, unable to escape the press of their own comrades. Philip, watching his life's work disintegrate, makes the hardest decision of his reign. He orders retreat. His bodyguard surrounds him, and the Macedonian king gallops from the field, leaving behind the shattered remains of his army and his nation's military reputation. By late afternoon, the Battle of Cynoscephalae is over. The invincible phalanx has been shattered, not through superior strength, but through tactical flexibility meeting catastrophic rigidity at precisely the right moment. The butcher's bill is staggering. According to the Roman historians Polybius and Livy, approximately 8,000 Macedonians lie dead on the slopes of Cynoscephalae. Another 5,000 are captured, nearly half of Philip's entire army eliminated in a single afternoon. Roman casualties are estimated at 700 dead, though this figure likely underrepresents Allied losses. But numbers alone don't capture the earthquake that just occurred. The Battle of Cynoscephalae doesn't just end the Second Macedonian War, it ends an era. For 150 years, since Alexander the Great's death in 323 BC, the Macedonian phalanx has been the gold standard of military power. Kingdoms across the Mediterranean have imitated it, feared it, built their entire military doctrines around either deploying it or avoiding it. In one afternoon, that paradigm shatters. The phalanx isn't invincible, it's obsolete. Within months, Philip sues for peace. The Treaty of 196 BC strips Macedon of its Greek possessions, its fleet, and its status as a Mediterranean power. Flamininus proclaims freedom for the Greek cities at the Isthmian Games of 196 BC, a propaganda masterstroke that positions Rome as liberator rather than conqueror, though the Greeks will soon learn that Roman protection comes with strings attached. But the real impact reverberates through military thinking across the ancient world. The lesson of Cynoscephalae is clear. Tactical flexibility defeats rigid power. Armies that can adapt to terrain and circumstances will defeat armies optimized for a single battlefield condition, no matter how devastating that optimal scenario might be. Within 50 years, Rome will defeat the Seleucid Empire at Magnesia, 190 BC, another phalanx-based army. 30 years after that, at Pydna, 168 BC, Rome will utterly crush Philip's son Perseus, ending Macedonian independence forever. Each battle follows the same pattern. Initial phalanx success, then collapse when terrain or Roman flexibility breaks the formation. The military historian Hans Delbrück would later observe, "The phalanx was a magnificent instrument of war until it met an opponent who refused to fight on its terms. Cynoscephalae is the moment that refusal becomes doctrine. Rome's century of conquest is just beginning, built on the tactical foundation proven on a foggy hillside in Thessaly. The age of the Legion has arrived, and the ancient world will never be the same. Our understanding of the Battle of Cynoscephalae comes primarily from two ancient sources. The Greek historian Polybius, writing in the mid-2nd century BC within living memory of the battle, provides the most detailed account in his Histories, Book 18. Polybius had access to eyewitnesses and was himself a military expert, making his tactical analysis particularly valuable. He emphasizes the flexibility of the Roman maniple system versus the rigidity of the phalanx. The Roman historian Livy, writing in the late 1st century BC, offers a more dramatic narrative in his History of Rome, books 32 to 33. While Livy sometimes embellishes for literary effect, his account corroborates Polybius on the essential facts: the divided battlefield, Philip's initial success, and the decisive rear attack by unnamed Roman tribunes. Modern scholarship, particularly Peter Connolly's Greece and Rome at War, and Adrian Goldsworthy's The Roman Army at War 100 BC AD 200, has used archaeological evidence and tactical analysis to reconstruct the battle's mechanics. The key insight remains consistent across 2,200 years. Cynoscephalae demonstrated that combined arms flexibility defeats specialized superiority when conditions favor adaptation. If you found this deep dive into ancient military revolution fascinating, there's so much more to explore. The Roman military machine that emerged from battles like Cynoscephalae would go on to conquer the known world, but it too would eventually face enemies who refused to fight on Rome's terms. That's a story for another time. The question that haunts military history is this: what makes a military system dominant isn't just its peak effectiveness, but its ability to evolve when that effectiveness is challenged. The Macedonian Phalanx couldn't evolve. The Roman legion could. That difference determined the fate of civilizations. Next time, we'll examine the Battle of Carrhae, 53 BC, where Rome's seemingly invincible legions march into the Parthian desert and discover their own tactical rigidity has a price. Sometimes the hunter becomes the hunted. Sometimes invincibility is just inexperience with the right enemy. The slopes of Cynoscephalae are quiet farmland today. Sheep graze where phalangites died. But on one June day in 197 BC, the ancient world pivoted. 2 centuries of Macedonian military dominance ended not with a whimper, but with the shattering of 16,000 sarissas against Roman steel and Roman adaptability. History doesn't repeat, but it echoes. And the lesson of Cynoscephalae still echoes through every military academy and staff college in the modern world. Adapt or die. There is no third option.